Welcome to another Workshop Wednesday, casual conversations for serious workflows, brought to you by schoolofbookkeeping.com, where you can keep learning QuickBooks your way. How are you, Rachel? It's good to see you.
I'm good. How are you?
Very good, very good. You come storming in here, and you're a busy woman, so I appreciate
Yeah,
you.
today's been a really busy day. And I'm not sure if you noticed, but I updated my profile underneath my name with both net deposited and core financial.
Right, because one business wasn't enough for you. You had
Nope. But, net deposited really focuses more on inventory and e-commerce, and core financial is service-based folks. So,
the
Yep.
core
Yep.
financial.
yep.
So when you get into the branching out into inventory, that's when you cross the
That's a
line,
whole other level of crazy.
right? Well, we're going to be talking about merging, right? So maybe at some point you may merge these two businesses under one umbrella, but we're going to be talking about merging lists inside of QuickBooks today. Before we get into that topic, we want to talk about something that Rachel and I discovered. I think it was yesterday or the day before, where
It was yesterday.
yeah, is the time is it's hard to keep track of when you're not paying attention. And sometimes you look around, and there's a month has passed.
And it's also April 8th. So,
Right.
yeah, it's crazy. And at Core Financial, we're also doing tax. So it's really crazy.
Wow. So you were discovering, and we've been talking a couple months ago about Intuit Accountant Suite and the features of Intuit Accountant Suite. We have a blog on School of Bookkeeping, the comparison between the books review and the books close feature, and Rachel, being always open to trying something new, was like, "Hey, I want to close my own books," right?
Yep.
So
And I was looking for it yesterday in QuickBooks Accountant, the new Accountant Suite.
yeah.
And I was going to get caught up, and I was going to go in and do all my transactions without payee and all of the things that you would typically do with a month-end close. And what happened?
Let me share my screen here so I show what people what we're talking about, right? So we had talked, pretty extensively about the books close feature, which is now when you have opted into the Intuit Accountant Suite, Core, or Accelerate, you have the ability to add on this feature called Books Close, which allows you to really see a bird's eye view of all of your clients that you are closing the books for, right? And so, Rachel, you came to me and you were like, okay, well, I want to close my own books as a net deposited or core financial, one of the the two. And so, of course, she went to onboard herself, and you go, like, in this case, my firm name is Dan with QBOA, right? If I start to type in Dan, I don't see that as an option on the books close, right? So
Yep.
fail number one, womp womp. Womp womp number one is you cannot add your own books to the books close feature.
No, and it's really annoying because historically, when it was QBOA, QuickBooks Online Accountant, you could use those functions for your firm. And that was really important because it was really, for me, the way that I would test out how to use all these things. And I did use them. And so now that we've switched over to Intuit Accountant Suite, my assumption was that I could use those things.
Yeah, well, sorry to tell you, no, we discovered yesterday that
Nope.
you cannot add the firm books as your own books close. So my initial thought was, there's why not just use the books review option, which is under the all apps under accounting, right? Oh my goodness, there's no
Yeah,
books
you.
review
Yeah, that's
in
what you
your
said. You
books.
said go there and just do that. And I looked, and then you looked, and no, it's not there.
Yeah, so I'm going to go into a client just so that we have so we can show what we're talking about here, right? When you go into a client under all apps accounting, well, under a client, there's an option for books review, right? Which essentially gives you a lot of the closed books tasks in the in the client that you're looking at. Books review, we've talked about the difference between books closed and books review, but you do have the ability to go into that company and see this books review tab, which under normal circumstances would be an alternative, plan B, to be able to do some of those tasks in your own books. Well, as a firm, right? So with the firm books and your books and the the QuickBooks online subscription that accountants get as a firm, which you would say, okay, same exact navigation, all apps, accounting. I don't have that option here. So
Yeah, and Dan, did they announce that at all, or did we just discover it?
I think that's a discovery on this case. So
Yeah.
we want to make sure that people are aware. As an accounting firm, you can't close your own books.
Yeah, and that, by the way, that's really frustrating because for me, I usually do my bank feeds every day, but I don't always reconcile timely. And furthermore, a lot of times I'm doing it really fast, and sometimes I'll skip a payee thinking, I'll just, add them in bulk later. And because I always want to put it in payee, FYI, like you always want to do that. Right. And but with the books review tool, I thought, oh, that's okay. I can put them in, after the fact using this cleanup tool, which is really great. Well, now guess what my only option is? Import it into Double or something like that for me to do a books close for my own firm. And it's really frustrating because now I'm forced to pay for something else. And otherwise, how am I supposed to do it?
Right. You can't at that point because now you got to look at something else. Now, this may be something that they may take care of, right? It is in beta, right?
Yeah.
They may have this as an option. And as a reminder, the beta has been extended to July 1st. So if you're concerned about the May 1st start date of getting billed for some of these things, that is now shifted to July 1st. So you got a couple extra months. Now, when we were talking yesterday, I thought, okay, well, let's just make our own bookmark, right? Because this web address, and I'll try to make this a little bigger so we can.
Yeah, you have a trick of copying and pasting a URL to do it.
So here we are in the books review of a client. You can grab the URL here. If I actually don't if I use the keystroke that's supposed to be the key.
And you're in a client, not your own books, right?
Yeah, I'm in a client. So I'm gonna just to give you an idea, I'm gonna pop over to another client and just paste that URL so that you can see that hey, that's where it should go, right? So here's the URL, qbo.intuit.com/app/verify books is the URL. When I go there in the secondary client, now I'm in that secondary client in the books review, right? So that was my thought process.
That URL knows that that's where you want to go, and as long as you're toggling back and forth between different clients, it'll let you do that.
Right, and you can do that. You can save your own bookmarks with Write Tool and those types of things. So, all right, well, let's go back into the firm and just now that I'm in the firm, I can just use. This is the thought process. I'll just use that URL in the firm and find my way into the books review. And we're sorry. Page you found the page we can't find the page that you requested. So this URL of the backdoor way to get into the books review they've cut that off, right? So
Yeah.
this is truly what we were talking about, is that you don't have a way to do any of these tools in the accounting firm books,
The accounting
right?
version.
So,
Yeah. And I mean, and we don't know, this could be a temporary thing. Like, remember when I discovered that I couldn't change the mapping on a cost of goods sold item or something like that? I can't remember. Yeah. And you said, and other people had said, you're just imagining it. No, I swear I saw it. I swear that was the case. Well, and then it switched back. So I think they're in there modifying things frequently. And this may be a temporary thing, and we don't really know, especially because, like you said, they extended the deadline for having to pay. And so I think what's going on over there is they're making a whole bunch of changes and decisions and figuring out what they want to include in Accountant Suite and what they don't, and flipping switches, and that's fine. I mean, I will say, if we don't have that capability anymore, I will be disappointed.
Yes. Yeah. And that certainly could be something that is either an oversight today on the roadmap for tomorrow, or something that is going to be brought to their attention even after, they go live, after the beta period is over, and realize, oh, well, we didn't think of that, or whatever the case may be. But the fact that the URL is blocking, you can't get to it, makes me think that this is something intentional, right? Like this is what they were meant to do. Maybe they didn't get the books closed, and I'm pretty sure that when you're dealing with billing of things that span across your books, your firm, and potentially your clients, right? Because in this case, if you add yourself as your own books closed client and you're a client, you've got billing, so to speak, for your books and the client's books, and should be charged for the books closed on the firm books. That's a complication, right?
Right.
You've got.
Well, I think we should get it complimentary, but I get how on their side it could be complicated, and that's fine. It's I'm just going to add this to my list of things for Intuit to take a look at. I'm sure they're watching this right now, and they're like, Rachel wants this back.
You're like, send up a bat signal so that Rachel is happy.
Well, tell Ted Callahan, but I saw today he's leaving.
Right? Yes, Ted Callahan is leaving Intuit for other pastures. He has not divulged where he is going or what he is doing. I guess that is, we have to wait until May.
Yeah, well, we love Ted, and I'm very sad that he's leaving, but I'm excited for him.
Yeah, he's a really good guy. Now, so now let's get to our topic of the day, which is all about merging. Right.
I love merging. It's very satisfying. I'm telling you, it's the greatest.
Now this occurs, or this is something that needs to be addressed when you have essentially duplicates. Now, what have you found in your breadth of experience? What causes duplications? And we're talking about like chart of accounts, customers, vendors, products and services. What have you found have been the common hit list of where these duplicates come from?
Well, we usually see duplicates a lot in vendors, and that's oftentimes coming in through the bank feed. Maybe if they don't see a vendor, they'll create a new vendor. With customers, that definitely will happen. And that'll happen actually with me sometimes. Sometimes I'll create a customer, and then, there's a connection to my, proposal platform, and then it'll create a duplicate customer. And so then I have to duplicate that. Sometimes there'll be duplicate product service items. And then the one thing that I'll say is, especially when we're using QuickBooks Online and we're using a lot of external apps. Like Dan and I will use a lot of external apps for all kinds of things, billing, inventory, etc. When you're syncing things over, the duplication is a big issue and you'll get a lot of erroring. And so where this, I used to think, oh, this really isn't a big deal, several years ago. Now it's actually a very big deal, and you can cause a lot of things to jam if you have duplicated vendors, customers, accounts, items. Now, what I was going to say though is for the GL accounts, the duplication will annoy me because it'll create like a cluttered P&L, which I don't like. So a lot of times we'll merge accounts because we have unnecessary things. But the error issues come into play when it comes to vendors and customers and items.
Yeah. And what's the big deal? Like what's the problem with having let's just take customers for example. What's the problem with having multiple John Does on your?
Well, think about it like this. Okay, so let's say you have a customer and you want to look up their historical invoices. And so, or let's say you're working in a customer's QBO and you're looking up one of their customers in their historical invoices. Well, sometimes, and we see this all the time, sometimes there'll be two customer identities and half their invoices are split with this one and the other half the invoices are split with that one. And that's usually because somebody in there accidentally or inadvertently created an additional customer. And so then maybe that invoice isn't available for you to apply a payment to. And so then maybe a bookkeeper will, apply something to nothing. And then it'll just be like a payment, an applied payment floating in there. So you don't want that. You really want to make sure for all of the customers, there's one customer of record that all of the historical invoices are tied to. And then when a payment comes in, and this is even the case with a vendor and a bill, when a payment comes in, you want to apply that payment to the specific invoice because you want to make sure that that invoice is marked paid. And it can be a really, really big issue if, let's say, it's not applied to the correct invoice, and then you communicate with that customer further and say, well, that's not been paid. Well, they know they've paid it. So this is a big problem in a lot of different situations.
Right. And this is how things get, decisions, might be made based off of what you see on reports. And
absolutely.
If you're looking at it from a lists perspective, right, whether that's the chart of accounts, right, you're looking at your financial lists at that point with your profit and loss and your balance sheets, and you have multiple, you have office supplies and supplies office, or whatever it is, and you have different transactions split between the two. You're really not looking at things holistically because you've got things spread across, and that could
and what could be really, really dangerous is if you're looking at an AR aging and it looks like things are still outstanding and they're not. That can be extremely damaging, and you just don't want that at all. One example that I'll give is actually this morning. I got an invoice from my lawyer, and it had an amount that was past due, and I knew it wasn't right because those invoices I pay immediately, and so the invoice had said outstanding balance of blah, 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 and then new charges of blah, blah, blah. And so I immediately emailed him not saying, why is this showing outstanding? I already paid this. Not that. What I said was, I suspect somebody didn't apply the payment I made to the correct invoice because I've been doing this for a very long time, and I can see probably what that error was because I wired that payment on March 31st. I don't think it was they didn't get it. Oh, I know they got it. I just don't think that they applied it right. So that was the first thing I asked. And I said, check that. And sure enough, that exactly was the problem. It wasn't applied right. And so if you've got, bookkeepers or accountants that are working in a department and they're not applying things right, that can cause a big problem. Luckily, I identified it right away. And the guy said, yeah, you're absolutely right. Here's your updated statement. And it was no big deal. But that can be very upsetting to managers, decision makers, CFOs. It's a big problem.
Yeah. Now, when is and I know that some of these questions I didn't prep you for, so I'm not sure what the answer was going to come out of your mouth. But when is it? When do you need to merge as opposed to because the other option is, well, I'll just make it inactive. When would merging versus just marking it inactive be like? When is merging necessary?
Well, I usually try to merge before I make anything inactive. Inactivating something for me is like, well, I'd rather play it safe and leave it there just in case we need it. Just because something hasn't been used recently maybe doesn't mean that they're not going to use it. When I was working in my books, all of my clients' books, when it was just me, I had greater insight into what was used all the time. For me now, I'm not in it all of the time, so I'll jump in and maybe take a look at something if I'm helping. And if I see that there's 2 customer records, I'll always merge them. Then if I see that maybe somebody created one inadvertently and all of the correct information was in one and the one extra one has no activity, I can see that was an accident. I'll inactivate that one. But for the most part, in a world now where we're syncing a lot of stuff from other systems, I usually try not to inactivate it. And I do caution people, see if you can merge it first, because that's usually the case. And it's like they created another one with a dot or a space or whatever, you know what I mean? And so it just needs to be merged. Yeah. I've had a couple situations in which I wanted to be extra sure, and so I actually asked the client. We had one with one of our clients where it was spelled a little bit different, and I didn't know if maybe it was just a completely different vendor record. And so I actually asked the client, and she said, oh, it's the same thing. And so I merged it. But I will ask if just to be on the safe side before I merge it, and then I prefer to merge.
Right. Oops, I'm hitting the wrong button. Oh, what'd I do? Come back here. I was just about to show, but I was trying to make this bigger. There we go. So here you can see this Astra section, right? This Astra Development, Astra Holdings LP, Astra Investments 1, 2, and 3, right? So that looks like they're duplicates. And in reality, these are individual entities, and they should be separate. But
I was going to say that looks very intentional to me. I wouldn't think those are dupes at all. My assumption would be, oh no, somebody created 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Right, and these aren't. These aren't. These are individual entities, and that they're there that way for a purpose. But in this case, right, like in reality, they're supposed to be. But in this example of, hey, I've got multiple alt Astra investments, right? The key factor of whether or not you should merge them or not is, are there transactions in both of them, right? Right. Because that's what merging does, is it puts you choose a winner, right? And this, whether it's an account, a customer, vendor, product or service, you choose a winner, and then you choose a duplicate that you want to get rid of, and then all of the transactions that are under the one that you want to get rid of, they get merged into the one that is the winner, right?
Yeah.
So that is the determining factor of whether I should inactivate or merge, is if there are transactions that you're trying to consolidate. Now,
it actually, the ones on top look to me like that could be a duplication. Do you see you have AOHC and then you have AOHC conversion evaluation. Now, I know that you create those because you've got a conversion evaluation, so I know that's not a duplicate, but that's actually a really good example of like what I would see sometimes is somebody might have created just a short version of the name, and then they inadvertently created another customer record with like the long version of the name, and then the transactions get split between the two. And so in that situation, I usually will pick the longer name and then I'll merge them into.
Yeah, so typically you'll see things like this where it's masonry and stucco, and then Axis masonry and stucco -1. Right?
Yeah.
So typically that's the naming convention that QuickBooks will use when there is an attempt to add something that's already existing and it needs to create a new one instead of use the existing one, right? Because it's just doing what it's told, and that certainly could be, if I can't find it, I'll create a new one, and then when it actually tries to create it, that's when QuickBooks says it's already on the list.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, well, we don't want to error, we just want to move this forward. So these integrations will, in their infinite wisdom, because of the preferences and mappings and all those things, create a new list element instead of using the one that's already there, which then causes, okay, well, we now have to merge these two.
And I don't know about you, but I see a lot of this type of error when a new client is coming to me that maybe hadn't worked with a professional bookkeeper, and they've been using a QuickBooks Online file, but they are like DIYing their own invoicing, and they're kind of struggling with it a little bit. They don't know how QuickBooks works. And so they've got all these invoices in there and all these customers and historic invoices, but not really much else. And you see a lot of duplication like that. And that's usually what I'll do. We'll go in and clean that up and merge a whole bunch of stuff and get it straightened out.
Because maybe there's a default chart of accounts, and then like sales and sales of product income. Let's talk about an account, for example, right? So sales and sales of product income, right? There really isn't a need to have two of them, right? And maybe you've got transactions in both, right? You're looking at your profit and loss. You see some under sales and some under sales of product income, right? And you want to consolidate that under one, right? So the easiest way to do that is to just merge the two. And you do have this option here under actions to make inactive, but that doesn't solve your problem when there are transactions associated with.
Right. You always want to open it up and look and see if there's transactions in there.
Now, one other thing to keep in mind and be aware of is that you cannot unmerge, right? So and that's why it's kind of important to determine which one do you want to keep, which is the winner and which is the one that you want to get rid of, because once you do it, you cannot undo it, right?
Yep.
Now, this is a case for, having a restore point, like a backup, like Rewind, or if you're using advanced, you can fall back on a restore point. If you do decide to do a bunch of merges and that was the wrong way, or that was I didn't want to do it that way. But the way that merges work inside of QuickBooks is that the loser is not deleted, right? So where you would think merging, right, like merge, the two shall become one, right? You would think that, you would be getting rid of one of them, but in reality, that's not really the case. So I'm going to edit this sales.
Although I don't know if it allows you to do it with this particular one, does it?
We'll see. We shall see.
And I will say, while you're doing this, I do have a nitpicky difference between sales and sales of product income. I will always use sales of product income if they're selling items. I will never use it if they're a service-based business. I will use sales.
Yeah.
I just
that makes
don't.
That makes sense. Probably, because if they don't have product to sell, why would you have sales of product income? Right. So in order to merge, all you have to do is change the account names to match. And so you start from the loser in this case. So in this case, sales, we wanted to merge into sales of product income. I just changed the name to match sales of product income. And now I get this message to say, hey, you already have an account by that name. Would you like to merge them? And I would be able to say yes. Now, before I say yes, I want to mention with accounts, detail type is important, right? So not only does it have to be the same account type, it also has to be the same sales or the detail type. So in this case, sales of product income, you can see the detail type of both of them is the same, right? If this was actually nonprofit income and I tried to merge them, it would say, hey, I can't do that until you make the detail type the same. So that's a little nuance of merging accounts. So now I'm going to say yes. It's going to go through and merge them. It did let me do it.
And also, you didn't say, what if it were a sub account?
Right. So that's another thing, about the hierarchy of all of those items. So anything that does have a sub, like customers can have sub customers, accounts can have sub accounts, products can have sub items if you still have sub items. Those types of things, it can only merge on the same hierarchy.
Yeah.
Right? So you can't merge if there are existing subs, right? So you have to manipulate the items to remove the fact that there are sub items or sub accounts or subs, so that it allows, if you're doing the parent account or customer, then it can't have any subs, because in reality, those are individual, unique items and accounts. So you're just dealing with one of them here, and it cannot do all of the subs as part of this merge process. Right?
Oh, and I would argue that you haven't really lived until you've worked on a horrific cleanup in which you have to go and unnest a whole bunch of accounts just so you can merge them. Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Oh, that's fun.
Yes. Now, you can see on the account account list that there is only one sales of product income. Where did the sales go? Right. So if I go in here and I click the gear and choose to include inactive, and go back down to the sales. Where'd it go? Sales. So this is how QuickBooks Online merges things. It makes them. So there's my sales account. If I ran a report on this, which I could do, there would be no transactions, because any transactions that were under sales are now under sales of product income. But I can still see that sales is still on my chart of accounts. It's just inactive,
even though they name it as deleted.
Right. Yeah, it's inconsistent, but in reality, that is the indicator that this account is inactive, right? Which I can make it active again, and now I do have back to where to go.
Yeah, you can make it active again, but like you just said, you can't unmerge it. So now it's there with a blank history.
Right. So if I were to look at that again, so there's no undoing a merge is really the point that we're getting across, and that's for all list elements. So it could be customers, vendors, employees, chart of accounts, items, um, classes. I mean, anything that you would be merging. Um, that's what occurs in QuickBooks Online. The losing one doesn't doesn't get undone, right? So all it happens is it gets renamed with the deleted in parentheses, and it gets marked inactive, so that it hides it off of the list, right? So if you went the wrong way, right? Oh, I wanted it to go into sales, right? You can just edit this account, right? That has all of the history to sales at that point, because when there's sales deleted, I'll put it back. Yes, again, active. Uh, so now the sales is deleted. I can just edit this account that has all of the transactions in it and just call it sales, right? So now I don't have two.
Yeah.
I have
Now that's the active one, and then that's the inactive one.
exactly right. Now with customers, it's a little bit different because there is a field that we want to talk about. Get to the hub here. Let's look at that. Since we were talking about AOHC, when I go and edit a customer, this is the problem. I mean, or this is the field that we need to be concerned about. This client display name, or if you're seeing them as customers, it'll say customer display name. But really, that is what you see as the display name, and that is the only required field when creating a customer, right? So you can have first name, last name, you can have all sorts of other fields listed in here, but the display name is what determines whether or not they're uh, duplicates or not, right? So,
And that's the one that you would change if you're looking to merge.
and you would just edit the display name field to match the display name field of the one that you want to keep. You'll get the same thing where it says, hey, these are already in use. Would you like to merge them? You say yes, and then it combines, and it does the same thing where it renames the loser with the deleted parentheses, and then marks it inactive, right? So that is the process that goes along with merging, and all of your lists that you would need to do this with, whether it's a product or service, or a class, or location, or terms. I mean, all of your lists can be merged. You just need to change the name, the one that you want to get rid of, to match the one that you want to keep. Save it, and then it will merge that. Just bearing in mind that you cannot undo a merge. Right? It's quite hard to unravel something that has been merged together. It's kind
and I would say, like, if maybe somebody's just starting to experiment with merging, maybe try it with some things that don't have transactions, because then you can really test it out, make sure you're doing it right.
Yep. So let's see here. So I wanted to do this with an inventory item. So let's just see here. So, I know we have pretty gnarly inventory names here. So
is this your t-shirt company with like the really difficult nitpicky names?
Yes,
oh my gosh, Dan, I told you.
Which is candy as well. So this is,
oh my gosh,
it's going to choose this one.
Those are so hard to read, Dan. Rename those.
Change it. Save and close. Okay, then now I get the name's already in use. Would you like to merge them? You cannot merge. You cannot merge inventory items, right? So That is something that I wanted to confirm before
Yeah.
I made a statement about it, because there is so much to unravel with,
Yeah.
the cost of those items. Um, Inventory items cannot be merged.
Yeah. And there's
That
probably FIFO layers in there.
Yes.
So,
So you're not able to merge them. That would be more of a manual process if that's the case. And that's why you would have to go into each of those transactions, change the item to which one you want it to, and
yeah.
then resave it, which is a pain to say the least. Now, one other thing that we want to talk about with merging is specific to Intuit Accountant Suite or QBOA. This merge duplicate clients, which is
Ooh, I haven't seen that before.
yeah, it's been around for a while, and if you don't see it, if you don't know it's here, this is the only way to access it. So if you never knew it was under the gear and merge duplicate clients, then that is you never saw it, right? So let me go to the client list, and this is where, let me go back here to the client list. So this issue where you have the ones, right? Which one were we looking at that had the ones? That was the Axis stucco. Right? Make that bigger. Come on now. Why can't it? It's not wide. Let's close this. No. Oh, there we go. All right. So, why is this? I cannot see it with one or not. So let's see. So typically, what happens, right? So the reason I'm pausing here is when you're looking at your client list in Intuit Accountant Suite, the ones that have a subscription have this green QB next to it. The ones that don't have a subscription don't have this green QB next to it, right? So when you are merging duplicate clients, so this option here to merge duplicate clients, this will bring up, get to it here. All right, so this is the target client, and this does allow you to do multiples at the same time. Again, this is solely for Intuit Accountant Suite users, not end users of QuickBooks Online. But this here lists the target customer, which is the client that you want to keep, and then the one on the match client name is, you can click in there. Hello. Oh, I got to check it first. Then I have a drop down of all of my other clients that I might want to merge into this Sullivan, Heiser, and Sweeney, for example. So the caveat to all of this is you cannot merge two clients that each have a subscription, right? So you cannot merge a customer that's named one, right? So my particular case of when I do conversions, right? I do a conversion with evaluation first. So this AOC conversion evaluation, and then this AOHC without the conversion evaluation. I can't merge these two together because they both have a subscription associated with it.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Cool.
So I could merge Art Matters into one of these because there is no subscription, or All American Water Conditioning into any of these because it doesn't have a subscription. So you cannot merge duplicate clients if they both have a subscription, even if one of them shows as canceled, right? Because it's not allowing you to do that. But this does allow you to merge duplicate clients when there's a need to. And this is typically what happens when you start out with a client and then they add a subscription and invite you as a user, as an accountant user. You've got transactions under the client without the subscription, and then you have the invitation that doesn't have any transaction history, and that's what you want to do is merge the one that doesn't have the subscription into the one that does have the subscription, so that both your client list and your transactional history in your books match.
Yeah, and that happens frequently because sometimes like a lot of times I'll do some work maybe for a client before they even become a regular client. And so I'll invoice them or something like that. And then I end up connecting them through some proposal platform and it creates another one. So there's all kinds of issues like that.
And that's the last thing too. If something has created your duplicates, start at the source and make sure that those are mapped to the right one so that you don't continually have this salmon swimming upstream, so that you don't continue to have duplicates and need to merge. So this is something that a lot of people didn't even know was even a possibility, but it's just something to keep in mind, that this is one of those things that once you do it, you can't undo it. You cannot take Kool-Aid out of the water. Once you've dumped your Kool-Aid in there, it is pretty hard to separate the water from the mixture. So just
you can try.
You can try. Yeah. It's going to be a long, painstaking process. So next week and the weeks after, we are going to be doing a series on the new navigation in QuickBooks Online. I think the dust has kind of settled on where things are and how they are. So we're going to start a series on, the terminology differences and navigating the left side and navigating the globals, the bank feeds, the user interfaces that have gone through quite a bit of a change. We want to start this process of updating our material and content that we have at School of Bookkeeping to the new one, because now it's kind of decided that this is the way things are going to be. So we'll start that process, or start that series of workshops coming up starting next week. So until then, have a great week, and we'll see you next time on the Workshop Wednesday.